Hi, my name's Henry. I'm a father. At least I thought I was. This Father's Day, I got a box in the mail. No note, no return address. Just my daughter's handwriting, and she's been gone for over 10 years. My wife saw it and went pale. She said nothing, just froze. That's when I knew. They all lied. About her, about me, and what came next. I never saw coming. Father's Day mornings were always quiet in our home. That Sunday wasn't supposed to be any different. I was up early the way I'd always been. Habit formed from years of routines that never needed alarms. The kitchen was still, the kind of stillness you notice only when you're not in a rush. Coffee brewed slow. The smell drifted through the house like a memory. The window over the sink caught the early morning sun, washing everything in a soft gold light. On the walls were the same old photos that had hung for decades. Faded smiles, frozen summers, people we no longer mentioned. I was flipping pancakes, watching the batter bubble, when I heard the mailbox flap slap shut. That sound was odd on a Sunday, especially today. I wiped my hands, walked down the short hallway, opened the door. A small brown package sat there, no markings, no stamp, just my name, no to, no from, just my first name, handwritten, like someone knew I'd be the one to open it. I stood there for a moment longer than I should have. Something about the script, it tugged. Like déjà vu without the comfort. We weren't expecting anything, especially not today. I carried the box back into the kitchen. Dad was already seated, folding the newspaper he barely read anymore. Mom walked in behind him, half asleep, her robe barely clinging to her shoulder. "What's that?" she asked, stifling a yawn. "I don't know," I said. "It has my name on it. That's it." She didn't answer, but her eyes didn't leave the box. I sat it on the table. We stared at it, the three of us. No one touched it, not right away. I finally peeled back the tape. Inside, an old music box, blue enamel with a crack down one side, a Polaroid. Folded note. Mom's hand flew to her mouth. Her coffee mug slipped, shattered on the tile. She didn't move. I picked up the Polaroid. It was me and her, my sister. I was maybe 10. She looked 16. We were on the swings in the backyard. Smiling like time didn't matter, I unfolded the note. For Dad. She never forgot. Mom's knees buckled. She gripped the back of the chair, barely catching herself. "But she's been gone for years," she whispered. Dad didn't say a word. His eyes locked on the music box and the color drained from his face. Silence wrapped around the room like a noose. Heavy, unmoving. Not even the clock dared tick. That box shouldn't exist. Loss has a way of settling into the bones of a house. In ours, silence was the language of pain. After she disappeared, we never held a funeral, never called the cops, just stopped mentioning her. "It's better this way," Dad once said. "She made her choice. But I never got to make mine. I was just the little sister, the one left behind. I remember birthdays, hers and mine, passing like shadows. No cakes, no songs, just a quiet dinner and the clink of forks. The hallway used to have a picture of her in her graduation gown. One day it was just gone. No one said a word. But that music box, I knew it. She used to wind it up every night, right before bed. We shared a room. She'd fall asleep to that haunting little tune. Now it was back, sitting on our kitchen table like it had never left, like she had never left. But she did. Or so I'd been told. Dad finally spoke. His voice was lower than I remembered, like something in him had aged just in the last 10 minutes. "Where did this come from?" But he wasn't asking me. He was looking straight at Mom. She didn't answer. He leaned forward. "Who sent this?" Still nothing. Then she said, almost too quietly, "It's her handwriting." "What?" "She used to write her E's like that. Slanted, looped back." Dad pushed back from the table, stood, crossed the room without saying another word. My heart pounded, not from fear, from something worse, confusion and betrayal. Had they known something all along? All these years I thought I was grieving someone no one could find. Now, I wasn't sure anyone had ever tried. That night, I couldn't sleep. The house was too quiet. Even the crickets outside seemed to have stopped chirping like the universe was holding its breath. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling fan. It squeaked every third turn. That sound should have been comforting. It wasn't. 20 years ago, I was 12. I remember waking up to yelling, my sister screaming something I couldn't make out, Dad's voice, rough, then a door slammed, and then nothing. The next morning she was gone. No goodbye, no suitcase missing, just gone. Everyone said she left. She's grown, Mom said. She needed space. But I remembered. Her shoes were still by the door, her toothbrush still in the cup. And now, this note. She never forgot. Was it her way of reaching out, or someone playing a cruel trick? Or worse, was she out there all along and I had been lied to? I walked down the hallway barefoot, the floorboards creaking under each step. The kitchen light was still on, the box still on the table. I sat down in the dark. There's something about a truth held back too long and it rots. And when it finally surfaces, it doesn't just sting, it burns everything around it. We sat there, staring at the box like it might start speaking. No one touched it again. No one reached for the photo. The only thing louder than the silence was what wasn't being said. I stood up. I need some air, I mumbled, but I didn't wait for a reply. I left the kitchen, climbed the stairs too fast, and shut my bedroom door behind me. My hands were shaking. My thoughts wouldn't stop tripping over each other. I wasn't sure if I was angry or just scared. I started opening drawers, half looking for something to distract me, half hoping for nothing at all. But buried beneath old pens and a cracked keychain, I found something I hadn't touched in years. My high school digital recorder. I used it to keep audio journals, therapy on batteries. I thumbed the play button, expecting to hear my voice, teenage me rambling about school or boys. Instead, a voice came through, hoarse, whispering, almost too quiet. It was her. My sister's voice. The screen read a date 2 years after she vanished. I froze. She was crying, barely audible, whispering like someone might be outside the door. If something happens to me, it wasn't an accident. I sat down hard on the edge of the bed. She kept speaking, but the audio was messy, broken in parts. She mentioned names I recognized. One of them still showed up for Sunday dinner. Another lived 4 blocks over. Nothing about it made sense, except the fear in her voice. That part, that was real. Her breath hitched. She sounded like she was trying not to sob. Don't trust them. Not even. The tape cut off. Just static. I stared at the recorder, hoping if I hit rewind and played it again, something would change. But no. Each time it stopped in the same place. Each time, her voice felt closer and farther at once. Why didn't I know about this? Had someone found it before me and hidden it? Or had I just forgotten? A chill spread across my back. 2 years after she left. 2 years. I remembered something now, an old birthday card. It had come in the mail with no return address, just 5 words scrawled inside. Keep smiling. S. At the time, I thought it was some stupid joke. Now it felt like someone trying to reach out from under the floorboards. I ran my fingers along the edge of the recorder. My stomach was twisting itself in knots. I wasn't just hurt anymore. I was furious. They taught us to forget her, to move on like she'd never existed. But what if she didn't want to disappear? What if she screamed and no one listened? I needed to know. I headed back downstairs. Mom was rinsing out the broken mug in the sink. The water ran too long. She wouldn't look at me. I found something upstairs, I said. She didn't turn. Mom. She stopped. I found a recording of her. She was alive. 2 years after. She set the mug down too gently. You weren't supposed to find that. What does that mean? I took a step forward. What else have you hidden? Dad sat in the chair still, elbows on the table. He hadn't moved much since the morning. Why didn't you tell me? I asked. She looked down, voice thin. She sent one letter, just one. It didn't make sense. She sounded scared, confused. So you said nothing? I was trying to protect you. You were young, and your father, She looked at him, but he didn't look back. He couldn't take more. I laughed. It wasn't a happy sound. So you let us believe she was gone, dead? It was easier. Easier for who? She didn't answer. You weren't protecting anyone. You were covering something. My father finally stood. Enough. But his voice wasn't angry. It was tired, like a door being slowly closed. I didn't push him, not yet. That night, after everyone pretended to sleep, I slipped up to the attic. I hadn't been up there since I was a teenager. Dust floated in the light of my flashlight, and the smell of cardboard and old sweaters hit me hard. I dug through boxes until I found it, a shoebox with her name on it. Inside were scraps, hair ties, a worn-out notebook, and a cheap flip phone. The screen lit up when I held the power button. One saved voicemail. I pressed play. I don't know how much longer I can stay here. If Dad ever finds this, tell him I tried. Her voice cracked at the end. I played it again and again. That wasn't a girl who ran away. That was someone who ran out of time. I took the recorder, the phone, and the box. I wasn't showing them to my parents again. I needed someone who hadn't buried the truth, someone who didn't owe anyone silence. Because I wasn't just trying to solve a mystery anymore, I was preparing for a reckoning. I never expected that old burner phone would resurrect more than voices. But holding it that night, its cold metal pressed in my palm, I remembered something I'd long buried. 5 years ago, a birthday I barely celebrated, I received a card. No one mentioned it, as though we all agreed to erase its existence. It simply sat in a drawer, forgotten. The handwriting was faint, but familiar. Keep your smile, even when they don't. Signed with just an S. The date was curious, just days after the family search was officially closed. I pressed my tongue to the roof of my mouth, a seed of dread rooted. At dinner that evening, I invited only Henry, Mom, and my cousin Denise, who lived with us during those darkest years. We sat around the dining table under soft overhead light. The air felt brittle, like it would crack at a moment's notice. I slid the card across the table. "Do you remember this?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. Silence followed. Mom's grip tightened around her fork. Henry cleared his throat. Denise shifted in her seat. Eyes darted. No one spoke. Mom finally murmured, "We all wanted to believe she was at peace." Her tone carried more guilt than grief. I leaned in. But peace for whom? The card loomed in the space between us, as though accusing someone. For a long moment I thought someone might reach out and snatch it away. But no one moved. Later, I told Denise I wanted help digging through the garage attic boxes, claiming I sought old Christmas lights. What I really wanted was privacy. She followed quietly. Amid boxes of tinsel and old holiday cards, I found a folder. Inside was a Polaroid. My sister's face, older than I thought I'd ever seen her in memory. Her hair darker, her features sharper. I felt it in my bones. This photo should not exist. Denise snatched it, her face pale. "That's old," she said, voice shaking. "From before." But I knew that sweater. It was mine. I bought it 3 years ago. We froze. Everything sharpened. A lie had been folded into our past so neatly we never noticed it. I pressed Denise. Her voice cracked. She came back briefly, but only to me. She said you couldn't know. She rubbed her forehead. She said if she contacted you, they'd come for you too. Rage and heartbreak collided in my chest. "So you protected me by letting me believe she was dead?" I whispered. Denise's face fell apart. She told me what they'd never let me hear. My sister had been followed, threatened, forced to hide. Her only contact was with her mother, whispered through locked doors. "I lied for you," Denise sobbed. "It was safer that way." I turned and walked away. The garage lights felt cold on my skin. Every silence in our house felt louder now. Everything we kept unspoken, magnified. Alone that night, I replayed the voicemail. Each time, I caught a hint of wind chimes, distant but present. Only one place had them, Grandma's house in Monterey, California. She passed 6 years ago. Did my sister hide there? Did she feel safer there? I needed to know. I looked at my phone. I booked a flight. The house felt smaller already, the walls too tight. I packed the photo, the card, the recorder. I didn't tell a soul. To them, I was just the girl who got dragged into things she couldn't change. But now I was shifting the narrative. No longer a witness, becoming the one who asked the questions. I left dinner behind, the clink of cutlery still echoing down the hallway. My heart pounded. I moved quietly into the garage. Every creak of the floorboards felt unnaturally loud. The light bulb overhead was dim, casting long shadows across old toolboxes and dusty crates. I paused at the door, breathing shallow, listening for any sign of movement beyond my own footsteps. I scanned the corners, running fingers over faded labels. That's when I felt it. A rolled bundle tucked beneath a plank. I tugged it free. The scent of smoke cut through the stale air. I unrolled what remained. A burned folder marked Will Estate. Charred edges betrayed that it had been partially destroyed. Inside were remnants, fragments of a will naming me as primary heir. My blood ran cold as I realized what they tried to bury. Someone had replaced it in the safe with a fake version. I fumbled for my phone, lit the screen, and captured images of every sheet I could salvage. My hands trembled, sweat prickling my neck. Then I heard it, a quiet scrape near the garage door. A shadow parted the cracked glass window. Frozen, I stashed the folder into the jacket I wore and slipped out into the night before anyone else could claim them. Back in my bedroom, I locked the door and connected my phone to the laptop. Searching through files, my stomach dropped when I found a short video. Ember and Cormac stood in a dark room holding papers, tossing them into flames. Ember murmured, "He'll never know what we did." The flicker of fire illuminated faces I recognized, guilt on them both. My throat went dry. These were the documents I'd just found burned. They were destroying the evidence, hiding the path back to the truth. I backed up the file to cloud storage, making sure it couldn't vanish. Then I moved. I opened the door and walked downstairs, silent, heart thumping. In Henry's library, he was reading. He looked up, uncertain. I showed him the folder fragments in the video file. His face paled. "This is real," I said. "You were tricked." He shook. His voice caught. He asked who would do this. I held steady. They wanted to rewrite history. But I found the real one. Years of silence hung between us. Regret, questions, betrayal. Suddenly, the lights flickered. The lamp overhead dimmed, died. Darkness swallowed the room, alive with possibility. I felt movement behind me. A door creaked open somewhere. Henry grabbed my arm, firm. I whispered, "We're not alone." We held our breath. I decided then, tomorrow, I would contact legal counsel. I would bring this to light. Because tonight they burned paper. Tomorrow, we bring fire. I lingered outside Henry's study door long enough to hear nothing. The hallway was quiet. I told myself I needed clarity, not confrontation. Whatever rest I'd hoped for had already evaporated. My steps felt heavy as I entered the study, the door unlocked. Papers and old legal files littered the desk. The lamp cast long shadows. In the center sat a folder labeled Codicil. My pulse hit a quicker rhythm. I reached for it. The paper inside was crisp, yet the signature was familiar and false. It purported that I had relinquished all rights to my family's estate. Betrayal solidified in ink. I let the folder fall closed, my hands trembling. I stood frozen for a moment, soaked in the realization that someone had attempted to erase me in writing. A memory cracked open. Years ago, they told me I didn't need to attend a meeting with the lawyer, my parents, and my sister. I was only 14. I sat in my room. The door closed. Muffled voices echoed beyond the walls. I never saw the envelope passed out during that meeting, but now I see it. Ember slipping a folded paper to the attorney in the dim light. I was led to believe it never happened. I trusted silence. Now anger pools where trust used to be. I walked into the living room where Mom sat, soft amber light painting her face. I gently placed the forged codicil on the coffee table. Her eyes fluttered open. I asked, "When did you begin seeing me as a liability instead of a daughter?" She gasped, covering her mouth. "It was for the family," she said, voice wavering. Ember burst in soon after. The codicil's pages in my hand. She insisted it was real, that I'd signed willingly. I challenged her. "Why would I sign something you could later burn?" Her composure cracked. I saw guilt, fear, something raw in her eyes. I pushed harder. I showed her the burned will fragments I'd photographed. The real will. I told both women I'd contacted an estate attorney that afternoon. If they didn't annul the codicil immediately, I'd demand forensic scrutiny. Ember threatened me with defamation. I responded calmly. I don't need to argue in shadows. The truth will surface one way or another. The room hummed with tension. Our conflict had entered a legal battlefield. This was no longer just emotional betrayal. Then it happened. From upstairs came a soft whistle. Faint, but unmistakable. The melody from the old music box. My heart slammed. Someone wound that box tonight. Someone watching. I spun to face them, voice firm. That was her, or someone pretending to be her. Silence crashed in after my words. The family stood frozen, documents scattered, secrets breathing in the dark. I sat before the glow of my laptop well past midnight, the room hushed around me. I spread open every file I had, burned will fragments, codicil forgery images, the video of Ember and Cormac burning documents. My fingers jittered as I toggled windows. I cross-referenced dates, compared account statements, traced withdrawals. Then it hit me. The family's bank records showed massive transfers under my sister's name over the past 3 years. Funds that should have remained in Dad's account, our account, vanished. My pulse hammered. The shadows felt like walls closing in. I swallowed, clenched my teeth, and resolved that by morning, the world would know. I picked up the landline phone in the kitchen, steadying my voice even though my heart roared. Dad, wake up. I need you to listen. He answered groggily. I played the video. Dark flames, burning paper, Ember's voice. He'll never know what we did. Then I showed him the bank statements on screen. You have a right to know. All these years I was labeled dead, but they were draining your legacy in her name. Silence hung. Then his voice cracked. I never saw this. I thought she was gone. I warned him. If you don't act, they'll bury the evidence, destroy the backups. He answered with tremor. I will come with you, tomorrow. The weight of his silence turned fierce with possibility. When I reached the living room, Gwen and Ember were already there, their faces stiff. I held out the statements. Why did you let them drain Dad's accounts under her name? I demanded. Ember snapped back. You think you're clever. You weren't here. We had to protect him. But I slid the documents forward. Gwen stuttered for words. Ember's face drained. Restore the funds. Sign affidavits. They refused. Ember hissed. You don't know what you're getting into, as though wielding a threat. My anger simmered, but I held it steady. She attacked back, accusing me of greed, of seeking attention, of tearing apart the peace we preserved. I stayed calm. I didn't ask for this. You forced it by hiding everything. I dropped my bombshell. Burner phone recordings, emails she'd sent to a lawyer shifting account designs. Evidence that she manipulated numbers behind closed doors. Gwen gasped, tears forming. We were protecting him from scandal, she said, voice shaky. I responded, scandal isn't the problem. Truth is what you never faced. Ember moved toward her pocket, likely phone or legal backup. I cut in fast. I've already emailed all of this to the local news and to the district attorney. The shock struck faces. Henry stood, finally solid. Enough, he said, forceful. He ordered them aside. They shifted backwards. I faced them, firm. This ends tonight. The overhead light flickered violently, then cut. Darkness swallowed the room, but the tension sharpened. Ours, not theirs. I woke suddenly. No sound, no crash, no movement, but I felt it, something off. The house was still, too still, not even the familiar creak of wood shifting in the night, just an unnatural silence like the whole place was holding its breath. I slid out of bed, grabbed my phone, and tiptoed down the hallway. Shadows bent under the dim moonlight outside, flickering across the walls like they had something to hide. I turned toward the photo archive room, my father's collection of every family moment, every illusion we ever put on paper. The door groaned when I pushed it open. I raised my flashlight and swept the room, shelf after shelf, years of memories no one had truly looked at in decades. Near the back, I saw it, a box marked Funeral 12 200X. I hesitated for half a breath, then reached for it. Inside, a negative strip. I held it up, grainy but clear. Faces at Mom's funeral. And there, in the back, me. Younger, hollow-eyed, wearing that dress Gwen said I'd refused to wear. But I was there. I'd been erased, and someone made sure of it. I sat down hard in the nearest chair, the viewer trembling in my hands. My breath stuck somewhere between disbelief and fury. How do you mourn someone when you've been written out of the very moment they were buried? Ember's face flashed in my mind again, smug and assured. They hadn't just hidden my name. They'd rewritten the story entirely. I stared at that image until my vision blurred. Then I stood. I was done with shadows. The morning would bring light. Cormac's office was dark, but unlocked. I stepped inside, the photo viewer still in my grip. He looked up from his desk, startled. I placed the viewer in front of him. Did you manipulate the record of that day? Make it so no one would remember I was there? He blinked, once, twice, then shook his head. I don't know what you're talking about, but his eyes said otherwise. I reached into my pocket and laid out copies of hospital billing statements, highlighting payments processed under the family trust. Only those dates didn't align with any treatments. You've been draining funds under Dad's healthcare plan, quietly, for years. His denial came too fast, too flat. That's insane. But his hands twitched. I didn't need a confession. His reaction was enough. I grabbed the viewer again. You're coming with me. Back in the living room, Henry, Gwen, and Ember were still up, caught in a tense silence that hadn't lifted since earlier. I placed the photo negative on the coffee table, slid the billing papers across the surface. Here's the funeral. That's me. I was there. Someone decided I shouldn't be remembered. And here's where your money's been going. Gwen gasped, hand to chest. Henry leaned forward, eyes locked. Ember stood frozen. I turned to her. You redefined our past to control our future. She scoffed, but it cracked. You faked this, all of it. But Henry raised his hand, not angry, tired. Let her finish. I didn't flinch. Where did the money go? Who signed off on this? Because someone signed. And someone's been hiding every bit of it. Ember looked ready to lunge. Gwen whispered, This isn't how it was supposed to go. The front door slammed. All of us jumped. The windows shivered in their frames. The lights flickered, then steadied. In the doorway, a figure, still, watching, broad shoulders, familiar presence. My chest locked. My voice dropped to a whisper. So you've been watching. All this time. The house felt like it was holding its breath again. After the figure appeared in the doorway, the room froze. No one moved. No one dared speak. But it wasn't her. Just a neighbor. Wrong place, wrong time. They'd seen the lights, heard voices, thought someone needed help. They left quietly, and the tension stayed behind. I turned to Henry, my voice low. Get them all in the living room. I'm done talking one by one. 10 minutes later, Gwen, Ember, and Cormac were gathered, seated on the edge of their chairs like kids waiting for detention. No more hallway whispering, no more dark corners. Tonight, everything came to light. I dimmed the lights. The projector screen flickered on. Their eyes tracked the blue glow with suspicion. You've all had chances to tell the truth in private, so I said. But you didn't. So now we'll do it this way. The video started playing. My sister's voice. Her face, pale, tired, but unmistakably hers. She spoke calmly, clearly. She named names, Ember, Cormac, details no outsider could have guessed, a confession that cut through every lie we'd lived under. She knew everything, had always known. Silence dropped like a weight. I stayed standing, heart beating in my throat. Ember was stone. Cormac blinked, hands clenched. Gwen, pale. Halfway through, Izzy shot to her feet. Wait, that's Mom. That's you, behind her. Everyone turned. She pointed at the screen. Behind my sister, in a shadowed doorway, Gwen's profile was unmistakable, silent, watching. Ember jumped up, voice shrill. She's mistaken. That's not... I was protecting all of you, Gwen said, voice small but audible. Izzy spun on her. You knew, all this time. You told me she was gone. Gwen couldn't look her in the eye. I thought I was shielding you. From pain. From more lies. You were the lie, Izzy snapped, voice breaking. You're the reason I didn't know her. Ember's face twisted. Oh, please, don't let her rewrite the past just because it suits her now. Izzy's not the only one you kept in the dark, I said. You all did. But Gwen was there. She helped bury the letters. She signed off on the silence. Gwen wiped her eyes. I was wrong. I thought I was holding the family together. I see now. I lost my daughter trying to keep the peace. Ember slammed her hand on the table. You're siding with her now? After everything we've done for you? This isn't sides, Gwen whispered. This is truth. I took a breath. Truth doesn't need loyalty. It stands on its own. Ember's rage exploded. I'll sue you. I'll take you down for defamation, for fraud. That video's fake. I'll have it scrubbed, burned, erased. You already erased my name, I said quietly. Now you want to erase my voice too. You've stolen everything. My place, my history. You don't get my silence. Henry stood up. The old man finally looked taller than all of us. Enough. No more lies, no more shouting. Sit down. And just like that, Ember deflated, still fuming, but still. I turned back to the laptop, hit upload. The confession video went live, broadcast to the local news outlet, and pushed into the family's group chat. One by one, their phones buzzed. Everyone in that room now had the truth in their hands. No more hiding it. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. Then, creak. The front doors, heavy oak, opened by themselves. Wind didn't cause that. No draft could move those. We all turned. In the entryway stood a figure, backlit, still, watching. No voice, no sound, just presence. I barely breathed. Someone's been watching since the first box. They stepped forward. My stomach tightened. Because sometimes, truth doesn't just arrive with words, it walks in through the front door. The morning sun pushed gently through the kitchen blinds, casting a quiet warmth over the floorboards. I heard footsteps on the porch before I even saw her. Slow, purposeful. I opened the door to a young woman, mid-20s, maybe. Brown hair pulled back, eyes tired but clear. She didn't flinch. My name's Clara. Marisol was my mother. My throat tightened. She stood holding a small envelope in one hand and a canvas bag clutched to her chest in the other. I found this after she passed, she said, offering the letter. She told me if anything ever happened, to bring it here, to you. Behind me, Henry had come to the doorway. He didn't say anything, just gave her a quiet nod. It was like he recognized her soul before her face. I stepped aside and let her in. We sat at the kitchen table, sunlight catching dust in the air, like memory made visible. I opened the letter with slow fingers. The handwriting hit me like a voice in the room. Marisol's. Honest, steady. She wrote about the years we lost, about the reasons she stayed away, about the moment she realized silence was no longer protection, it was punishment. She forgave us. Even now, I don't know if we deserved it. You owe nothing to those who silenced you, she wrote. Speak now. Live now. The words landed heavy. Clara looked at me, unreadable. Henry leaned forward, his hands folded together. Gwen sat across the table, eyes fixed on the wood grain, silent. When I reached the end of the letter, she wept quietly. No drama, just the collapse of something old. Ember stood up and walked out without a word. Cormac kept his gaze down, shrinking in his seat. Powerless now. By afternoon, the news had spread beyond our house. Neighbors called, some with support, others just silence. Truth has a way of shaking even the innocent. You think justice is loud, but sometimes it's just the sound of people looking away. Henry started therapy again. Gwen left a handwritten apology in my mailbox the next morning. Short, honest. I didn't reply. Izzy surprisingly began showing up again. At first it was awkward texts, then coffee. One walk turned into a few. We were strangers finding common ground, one brick at a time, not trying to fix the past, just refusing to carry it forward. We set up a small memorial on the hill behind the house. Marisol didn't have a headstone, so we made one, a plaque with her name, a bench, and a view she'd have loved. We didn't gather a crowd, just us, just peace. A few days later, I went alone, brought flowers. The letter. A photo of us, taken before it all fractured. I knelt by the stone and laid it all there. Not just the objects, but the weight I'd carried for so long. You didn't disappear, I whispered. You were erased. But I remember. And now, so does the world. The trees around me rustled, not loud, just enough to let me know I was heard. I stood slowly. For once, I didn't look back. I didn't need to. Peace isn't about forgetting. It's about choosing not to be trapped. That evening, just as the light faded, another knock came. I opened the door. A man stood there, tall, calm, mid-40s, familiar in a way that made my stomach clench. "Name's Vincent," he said, holding up a briefcase. "I think we have something in common." I didn't move, just stared, breath caught halfway. Because sometimes, even when you think it's over, life opens another door.